State.
He did have a blue screen of John.
Oh, for all of our viewers
Yep.
that are listening in audio, John is frozen with the biggest smile on his face.
Imagine John Strand floating in an ocean and smiling.
Oh my god!
Some say he's just swimming through the internet.
One day he'll get there.
Oh no!
Oh, he disappeared. He'll be back.
See, as bad as my video is, at least I am still here.
Oh,
that's a good point.
Yeah, very true.
Mm-hmm. One of these days, I'm gonna figure it out, though.
You got that dial up again, huh?
Oh yeah, I like to go as retro as possible when it matters.
Great. So now my camera doesn't want to work. That's fantastic.
Just use that screenshot. Just use the screenshot of.
You just got to reboot 3 times.
John, the website's down.
What do you mean the website's down?
There we go. Why'd you rearrange my icons? I had them just where I needed them.
All I had to do was unplug it and plug it back in.
Oh my god, you are an IT.
Would have never guessed.
I'm very good at what I do. I'm a people person. Got to do the whole login to Notion here real quick.
Ooh, there was a MBA breach too. Interesting.
That sounds like a phishing email sent to John Strand. Breach all MBAs with this technique.
No, not MBA. NBA.
Oh, NBA?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Basketball.
I want to know about the flock of chickens held for ransom.
What like
where is that? What chickens?
Where is this fit?
Under everything else?
Everything else.
Yeah.
Chickens held for ransom. No. If they don't pay, they die.
Where was it? Where did I just see that? No, it's under political and governments.
Oh god!
Of course it would be. Of course it would be.
People are asking, what is the shade of blue? Roger, it's fantastic blue is what it is.
Fantastic blue. Okay.
What is GoAnywhere?
I think it's part of Log Me In PC Anywhere.
Yeah.
Because we needed another breach on that.
Yeah, it's a bunch of software that I don't want to use.
Oh, it's a managed file transfer. Oh, that's spicy.
Are we ready to kick this thing off?
You can fly that.
Oh, I'm ready.
Finger.
I was born ready.
Let's do it.
Sure, let's go for it.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Black Hills Information Security Talking About News. My name is John Strand, and in this edition, we're going to be talking about a new Fortinet. Crap. These show notes are
wrong
old.
vendor. Wrong vendor. No, it's a Microsoft this week.
No, there's a Fortinet one too.
There's a Fortinet one too.
Abuse of FortiOS bug patched this month. Like, this is old. Oh no, it's probably another one. Criminals exploit Silicon Valley bank collapse because they're a-holes. Microsoft has yet another patch. Security firm Rubrik is the latest to be followed by GoAnywhere vulnerability. And just gives us an opportunity to talk about the 1980s cartoon Rubik's Cube. That's why it's actually in here. Death registry system in Hawaii has a data breach, and all of the people that are impacted get LifeLock.
What else would they get?
John, just so you know, that van that I asked you to pay for that has your social security number on it, it's actually ready. Do you want me to start driving
right
it
on
around?
I thought the QR code behind Corey was John's social security.
Don't scare them. That's why my head's here. If I move my head, John's identity is compromised.
Reassemble it as he moves around. Don't you talk about my social security number in that QR code?
It's funny, Corey. The van. Didn't you say the van was John's social on one side, and then it said "sucking at capitalism" on the other, right?
Oh, God. Let's just jump into it. What is this new FortiOS bug that was used to attack government networks? I'm sure CISA has an alert on it.
Well, it's high severity, so you know it's real.
Oh, it's just high?
it's high, and it's a path traversal. Privileged attacker could read and write arbitrary files. So privileged attacker, that means authenticated, right? So I don't know.
So I love this. The malware allows for data exfiltration, downloading and writing files, opening remote shells when receiving an ICMP packet that contains the string ;7 open paren ZU9YTSA7QQ #VM. What the hell? That's the same code that I use on my luggage.
That's my password. that's actually my password. How did they get my password?
To make TSA hate you.
Wow.
Do you guys not log in with your with ICMP? That's how I usually log in.
That's how I log into everything with port knocking, promiscuous sniffing backdoors. It's sad. It's sad because that is actually a strong password. If it wasn't sent in an ICMP packet in clear text, I guess.
It's very weird.
It is. I think it's cool though. I think it shows a little bit of evolution. I mean, they could have just ran any web shell or any type of backdoor, but no, they showed a little bit of creativity, a little bit of spunk in the ICMP packet, which I think is.
Wait, hold on. Just for point of clarification, that was the specific backdoor that someone put on the box after exploiting this vulnerability.
Yeah, that's No,
That's
that wasn't the exploit.
That was
the port. It's like the port knocking, like
that was the backdoor.
Yes.
Yeah.
That gets her started.
So basically, should we just start sending those pings everywhere on the internet and see where else is compromised?
I'm sure Shodan has already started.
Shodan's like, let's ping the
some
internet.
sort of calling card that they're leaving behind.
Actually, I'm going to do that right now while you all are talking. I'm going to go to Shodan and see if I can look up Fortinet devices and see if Shodan has already got them nailed as.
If you watch live, you can see the exact moment when John becomes a criminal.
No.
Did he hit enter? Okay.
Logging in with Google. You just talk amongst each other.
I feel like Why is it always Fortinet or Exchange? It's one of the two.
Okay, so while John becomes a criminal, let's talk about it wasn't Exchange, it was Outlook. It was Outlook. CVE 2023-23397, which I'm writing a blog right now called Why It Won't Get a Cool Name, which is just sad. I mean, I thought about some different names.
You should have named it. Come on.
I don't know what to call it.
Name it right now. We'll name it the Corey. All right.
No, that's terrible. I want my exploit to be way better than this. This one is it's spicy. I mean, it caused me to get a fire drill moment, which I think there's only been like 2 or 3 a year that caused me to fire drill personally. But yeah, it's pretty spicy. Basically, someone could send an email, trigger NTLM authentication to an arbitrary endpoint. It's not that big of a deal because there's a lot of compensating controls. It's been hot fixed already. If you reboot your computer, you'll get the update. And it also relies on SMB or NTLM traffic to the internet or internally. Basically, this one, from my perspective, is one of those things that Microsoft has a feature that no one actually needs, so they can just yank it completely out of the client, right? Like, for anyone that doesn't know, the vulnerability is you can put a UNC path in an MAPI parameter, which MAPI is a messaging API. So, of course, you want to play a specific sound when you get a reminder. And obviously, that sound should be able to support UNC paths, right?
Of course,
so, like,
because you need to pull them from an SMB share.
When I send you the email, you are going to play the reminder that I sent in my email because I want you to hear the honking noise that I put on the file share. Who needed this feature? That's the real question.
There's some developer who was really excited about this feature and how cool it was. And
this was probably his goal for the year.
He's like an intern. He's like, all right, before I leave, I'm gonna push my code into production that lets you play a custom sound. This is
the other question is who is actually getting notes or tasks sent to them over the internet?
Well, apparently a lot of people from Russia right now.
Well, they're invites. Calendar invites. Well, no. Calendar invites are definitely
TikTok, Mike. I don't.
Calendar invites are pretty standard.
Hot take for defenders, though. Quickly look at all of your outbound 445 traffic to the internet and ask why.
Well,
and is it allowed?
You don't need this vulnerability to
No, you don't. But that's like a good thought perspective is, do I have any outbound 445 that's allowed? If I do, should I be screaming?
So
And
this is
usually
this,
yes.
This is the devil in the details because as we were trying to replicate this, none of our home network ISPs allow 445 outbound. Like Comcast just says no 445 outbound or inbound anywhere on our network because of configure. So
Good
like
guy, Comcast, man.
Yeah, so like it's you have to like the list of things that you'd have to allow for this to be really exploitable are pretty long. However, internally it's pretty spicy.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Also, if you allow WebDAV or if you have the WebDAV service running on your endpoints, then that can potentially egress over a not SMB and be a more valuable technique. But it's just not that big of a deal. It did get a CVSS of 9.8, just that 0.2 away.
Oof.
Still, we're just not there. We're just waiting for the perfect CV.
Well,
score.
Microsoft pays for the
And when we
CVSS
get that
premium.
one, we'll call that one the perfect 10. Will be called the Corey.
The
Yes. But Microsoft pays for CVSS premium, so they actually can never get a 10. It's in their contract.
Is that how that works?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I did some searching on Fortinet devices, and there's none of them that are like you can just like Shodan puts the little banner that says exploited. Unfortunately, but there are 134,069 of them in the United States alone. So this gets back into something we were just talking about. Whenever these vulnerabilities, this is kind of to Corey's point to an earlier meeting. Whenever we have some of these vulnerabilities get out there for something like a Fortinet device, like they get popped very, very quickly or patched very, very quickly. So,
you basically have to know about it before it goes public to do anything useful with it nowadays.
Now I'm trying to figure out, I've got like Fortinet. I'm looking for like Fortinet devices and it says, are you interested in Fortinet running on a MikroTik router? I'm like, that's weird.
Why would you want to do that?
Because you're researching this vulnerability and writing 0 days.
I need to stop. I'm going down the Shodan rabbit hole. Like,
oh, no.
Shodan rabbit
but
hole
the audience is loving watching you become a criminal on the show.
Every time I go to the Shodans, I always go, why is the internet like this? Like, is anyone in charge? Like, this is bad. So.
Of course not.
Well, we got rid of the wall of shame.
In charge.
Should we bring back the wall of shame, possibly? Anyone that you send this ping to?
Just have a website that's just nothing but a wall of shame, and then threat intel feeds will take that data and charge it for hundreds of thousands.
They'll be
dollars.
like, "Oh, your host showed up on the BHIS wall of shame. This is a critical incident.
This is bad.
Your overall grade, your security grade is down to a B+. You have to pay us $5,000.
Security
back to a day.
Your security scorecard just says needs improvement, and then they scratched out all the grades.
Why did you get an S? Oh my God. That we have to do this. We have to do a security report card. April Fools. We have time to pull it up where we literally create a commercial that's like that. It's like your security scorecard, your grade is satisfactory. What does that mean? All of the really bad replacements of A, B, C, D, F of just like you got an E. What does that mean?
Well, so if you're based on my childhood, I think it would just say "see me after class." Your security scorecard just says "see me after class," or they just call your parents, aka your CSO.
It requires a parent's signature on this report card.
Why is this A really blocky?
You wouldn't call their CISO. You would call their insurance.
Yeah, you call their insurance.
Please have your insurance company sign off on your report card. Send it back to us by Monday.
This is the gift that keeps on giving. We're going to do this.
That's compliance. That's just compliance.
My camera is awesome. It's like, and now you're red.
John's getting mad. Yep. So, okay, the next one is the GoAnywhere, which is an not an NFT. I want to say NFT. It's an MFT.
You still want to say NFT.
So it's a managed file transfer appliance that apparently is felled the firm Rubrik, which
no, they're Rubik. We're gonna call
Rubik?
them Rubik, like Rubik Cube, like the cartoon in the '80s. That probably me and Bronwyn and possibly Mike are the only ones who remember.
So is this the Rubrik's Cube then?
The Rubrik's Cube.
Yeah,
the Rubrik's Cube.
So yeah, basically a security company just says we detected an unauthorized access to a limited amount of information in our non-production IT testing environments as a result of the GoAnywhere vulnerability. is being
That's
conducted. They hired a
big.
third-party forensics expert. Yeah, basically they didn't really give much details, but
If you're gonna get breached, you
I
might as well
wondered-
get breached by a
Hold
0
on.
day, right? Like,
Can we go up to that quote? Have
it-
you noticed that we've seen this exact same quote? Like, we've detected unauthorized access in a limited amount of information in one of our non-production IT systems as a result of X vulnerability. Importantly, based on our current investigation being conducted with the assistance of a third-party forensics, like, I seriously think that this is Mandiant's boilerplate. Like, here's CEO.
that's
fill in here.
That's
And
ChatGPT.
then
Yeah.
here.
Oh, yeah.
And we're good to go.
All right,
It's
let's see if
becoming
this company does this company do incident response? Oh yeah, they do. So they didn't.
So
they,
to exploit this vulnerability, right? The GoAnywhere managed file transfer administration portal needs to be publicly exposed. So that's like first mitigation, right? So,
but isn't that kind of its job, Ralph?
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
no,
the
not the
admin
administration
panel.
portal.
Yeah.
That's like saying you need your admin.
how are you
portal for-
supposed to administer it if it's not available to God and everybody on the internet?
Well, we use the cloud, so we don't know what our source.
Let's go to Shodan.
John, quick, turn this misdemeanor into a felony.
Do we need to do an intervention, John?
No, there's
John,
no chance. No,
we're gonna have to block Shodan on your home network, John.
Which is funny because I'm sure the attackers did the exact same thing. They saw it go on the internet. They went right to Shodan and bingo, bango. Now we're talking about this article.
Yeah, someone.
So
yeah,
this
someone
this is interesting because there's literally only 79 of them in the United States. So they were definitely in the minority on that one. But there are some Gov servers there.
Ooh.
Gee, targeted audience.
I would not target any Gov. or
Those
it
are
may end up
honeypots.
like
Those are
another
definitely
forum.
honeypots.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's pivot.
Perfect.
Let's talk about how breach.
That's okay. I'm
forums-
going there now. Just give me a second.
So yeah. The next article is the BreachForums one. For me personally, this is impactful because that's as an OSINT person where I got most of my data, or that was my current, desired source for
that
hacker
was his
forum.
current broker, guys.
I hate
dude.
I hate
I'm the one,
onions.
I'm the one committing crimes.
Sorry.
Hey,
Allegedly, they don't even
surfing
exist.
the internet's not
Allegedly.
surfing the internet's not a crime, all right? It's just
Okay.
a
Not like
website.
a
It's
screen
there,
share
Literally,
Just
the
like
only
hitting
reason
F12 isn't a crime, right?
the only reason I like it is because it wasn't an onion site, and I just hate onion sites. They're super slow,
I don't wanna go
but
to
turns out that might be a bad thing because the creator of the site has been arrested. His name is Connor Brian Fitzpatrick, aka Pompompurin. Yeah, basically, this is the creator of BreachForums. He's, I think, pretty young. He's like in his, he graduated in 2001. So, what is he?
Oh wow,
12.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, this turns out to be illegal. And personally, I remember the thread where they posted the DC HealthLink data breach, and that had like 300 senators' data in it. And then the first comment was, "Take this down so we don't get raided." And then the next week they got raided. So I guess
we've had previous shows where we talked about this, where there ain't nothing gonna happen, some senators and some representatives. Now things are.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what we said in last week's video when they talked. That's exactly what we said. Yeah,
we said now they care.
What are they gonna do? What are they gonna do about it? What legislation? None of us could come up with anything good. Well, it turns out they'll just take down the site.
Which
which will totally work. I mean, we all know from the Pirate Bay, you can just take down the site and it's gone forever, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
It's just gone, right?
You take down the easy site.
It's not a problem anymore.
Oh yeah, Mega doesn't exist anymore.
Mega doesn't exist.
No.
So yeah,
So-
and then there was never a problem with hacking again.
yeah.
So yeah,
There-
I
there's
can't wait for the next one. Yeah, I can't wait for the next one. Just let me know. I'm sick of Telegram.
Yeah.
Please. Just send me.
It was
I'll
so
have an
nice.
account. You just take my account. I'm sure you already have the data from BreachForums.
move the
use the
database
same
over.
password.
Yeah.
Yes,
You
just
don't
use
even
the
need to
same
change
password.
code. Yes.
Yeah.
The other what do you call it? Not breach form, but other hackers who got in trouble too were the two hackers who hacked the DEA. Again, I guess as soon as you start messing with federal law enforcement,
Is that part of the war on drugs? No.
yeah, yes.
For John, it would be.
So these guys, again, also pretty young, according to their arrest warrant. They got into a lot of pretty bad stuff.
If you're young and you live in the Five Eyes country, don't do this.
Yeah,
don't do it.
No,
Yeah.
the UK handles minors as hackers pretty well. I have to admit, there's a really
Who
good
does?
Darknet Diary episode about it. The UK,
Yeah.
like they
Yeah.
don't
I mean-
release they don't release their information because they're minors, and then there's actually like rehabilitation. At least that's what it talks about, and where you go and work. I'm sure it's all going to be depending on what you do, right?
Yeah. Meanwhile, here in the
But-
U.S., he's going to be in Guantanamo
Yeah.
for 20 years.
Yeah, and you get ousted, and everyone knows who you are, and you can't get a job ever again.
All right, so this does get into a legit question. So where is the line between these, like what these people are doing, and like security research, right? Because we
they
know that
moved
there's a
past that
ton of
line.
pen testing firms that are pulling down this data, the subscription to these services. Oh, by the way, there are totally services where you can actually pay for this data.
Yes.
And a lot of it is ill-gotten gains. Where the hell do we draw the line on this? Like, it's like, oh, they're making money. Oh, they're making money in not the right way. Where do we draw the line? How do we set this up?
I think it's like, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they get charged. Specifically how the BreachForums person gets charged. He was charged with what exactly was he charged with? Something about distributing.
He did post bail.
One count of conspiracy
yeah,
to solicit individuals to sell unauthorized access devices.
Yes.
Okay, so selling
That's not
unauthorized
that
access.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
300K
now
bail,
I was
though.
just joking and trying to turn this into a meta thing. I was just playing around on Shodan, and Shodan totally will tell you which devices are compromised, which devices have vulnerability, and they sell access to it.
Yeah. So I think there's two
It's
different
the intent.
Yeah.
If you're the
Yeah,
DOJ,
'cause
it's
laws
the intent.
love intent, like
Yeah.
defining
Yeah.
people's intent.
So
I mean,
the-
so this reminds me of the HackerOne and all of those type of bug bounty programs that are out there, and they went through that turmoil a while ago where they tried to say, well, if anything goes through Georgia at all on the internet, and you touch anything that traverses the internet through a Georgia server, you can be charged and all that other nonsense. And HackerOne basically wrapped a big protection around their bug bounty people that say everybody who uses this or sets up a program with us agrees not to prosecute people as long as they have good faith in their actions, good intentions in their actions. It's hard to prove, but I think when you're a security organization and you announce and you promote and you market yourself as such and you do business as such, maybe that's where it is. It's just this ambiguous
agree.
good faith or good intent that you can prove is a historical action to make things better.
I'm gonna get someone to share this out. If you want to know exactly what the Department of Justice thinks about it, the Department of Justice, whenever I was out, actually I think it was the week before I went out to Seattle for a case I was working on, they actually broke down what the Department of Justice believes is a good faith security researcher. And it says good faith security research means accessing a computer solely for the purpose of good faith testing, investigation, and or correction of a security flaw or a vulnerability where such activity is carried out in a manner designed to avoid any harm to individuals, the public, and where the information derived from the activity is used primarily to promote the security or safety of the class of devices, machines, online services to which access computer belongs, or those whose such devices, machines, or online services. Now, the point in all of that is, I made a joke, lawyers really don't care about your intent. They don't, but they do really care about your actions and what that may lead. So if you're taking these things and you're selling it at a profit, which once again, a lot of threat intel feeds, I see very, very, very little distinction there. But if you're taking this and you're selling it, and I just went red again, and
Getting mad.
you're selling this data out, or you're working and selling it to organized crime and different malicious groups, it will be interpreted that you aren't accessing or gaining access to these systems with good faith. So if you want to do security research, and the reason why I wanted to have this conversation starting with like Shodan and kind of what we did is because lately I've been seeing a lot of conversations come up around, can I port scan? Is port scanning legal? Am I going to go to jail? Unfortunately, I was on Reddit and I'm not proud of it, but that was one of the conversations that came up. And then this has come up again. So whenever you're doing security research, like if you go on to some server and you start sharing vulnerabilities and social security numbers and health information, access data to just random people, you're going to be in trouble. If you're selling it to crime or criminal groups, that's going to be a bad day. However, if you directly go to the impacted organizations and try to coordinate with them, according to the Department of Justice, they're not going to bring charges against you. That's at least their new policy as of, I think it was late last year.
I got two things. I got two. So it's 10 years is the prison sentence for BreachForums.
Max,
or fine up to 250 plus. But one thing I would like to point out is, so I'm rereading Cuckoo's Egg right now, right? Where he tracks down this hacker all the way down to the country and no one would help him. NSA, FBI, the military. And it's just mind-boggling now how much we do track them and what's such a huge upgrade it's been in the last 30 years.
So
I would,
or at least what it was, right? You would, but it's just pretty cool, at least.
So yeah, and like digging into the cases like John's talking about. So like, okay, let's say I'm on a website and I type, my name is Bobby Tables and I get a SQL flaw and then I type tick or 1 = 1 and it dumps out the entire database. Oh God, I did a data breach. Oh God. What I choose to do with that information is very like, do I personally benefit from this information? Do I try to sell it? Or do I do responsible disclosure to the company? Like all these things. Imagine you're reading this in a deposition in a courtroom as you're doing it. Like when I'm doing OSINT stuff, I'm like explaining to the lawyer in my head, why did I do this? Well, I was keeping people safe. Here's evidence that I was keeping people safe. Here's demonstration. I provided this breach data to a person. They were able to invalidate the breach data, meaning I helped someone out. This is proof that I can prove that I'm doing something that demonstrates good faith. But my question that I wanted to bring up to the room is, what if, let's say I breach this site. Okay, let's say, it's bigtires.com. And I go to bigtires.com and I breach the site on accident. I email them and I say, hey, there's a security vulnerability, it's really bad, you need to do something. No response. I try to get in contact, no response. I try to go through NVD or whatever, NIST. I'm like, hey, DOJ, Air Force, whoever you are, can you help me? FBI. And they're like, no, we can't help you. And then I'm just like, okay, I'll just publish it freely. Just like try to get them to change through the stick. If I just publish it for free, no personal gain, I just say here is the data from this site. Please, everyone tell them to go change their code. How screwed am I? Screwed am I?
All right. So you're protected under two things. Okay. So you're protected under two things. One, the Department of Justice and the thing I just shared with you. If you have actually gone through the steps to reach out to that organization multiple times and they ignored you, Department of Justice is not going to be that interested unless you breached the data of a senator or representative. You're screwed, because that is the line. The other thing that protects you or could protect you is the Consumer Fairness Protection Act. And the Consumer Fairness Protection Act, I've talked about it previously on the show. It allows you to talk about goods and services that you can purchase as part of think of it as consumer reports, right? If I have a car and the wheel falls off, and I go out and I tell people the wheel fell off my vehicle, I can't be sued by Ford or Chevy or Toyota for saying that this wheel basically just falls off randomly.
Which
you
is
can talk
shocking.
about what your specific issues are with a product. So yeah, I would say under that situation, unless it breached senator or representative data or the president or sitting Supreme Court judges or members of law enforcement. If you breach data of members of law enforcement, you're screwed. Other than those situations,
other than that,
you have those two laws. You have those two laws to protect you. Or not
there's one other caveat to that though. You may have, and this all that could all play out, John, and I actually agree with you, right? But someone can sue you for anything, and you still got to pay the legal fee.
Are you talking about civil, not criminal?
Civil. Ralph's absolutely right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ralph's absolutely right. Which brings up another point. The companies on that side, that let's say you release that vulnerability of that product or that website, Big Tires. I don't know how you came up with it.
I don't know.
Big Tires.
Please help.
You can always be sued. That's absolutely 100% correct. And there's a very strong likelihood that you would be sued into oblivion simply because you don't have the economic resources to fight it.
Yeah. Which is the worst part, but.
So someone's going to have to remind me how the whole thing ended. But to those two protections that you mentioned, John, with that instance where there was the website in Missouri and the reporter discovered it. You just hit F12, and it's in the source code.
They pretty
right?
much dropped
The charges were dropped.
Yeah,
the charges.
Yeah, the charges were ultimately dropped, but the nonsensicals we're talking about, you can still be, part of a legal situation and go through all of this trouble and pain, even if you have those two protections. So this guy reported it to the necessary place. They took it down. The publishing group for the story, for the reporter, delayed their report on the issue until after it was fixed and confirmed fixed. And then once it became public that this happened, then the governor went all, you hacked our site, we're going to bring you down, you're a bad person, and here's charges and drag you all the way through all this pain and suffering of
no
nonsense.
good deed goes unpunished, right?
Right.
Yep.
So
Yep.
And
I mean, that's a
always
risk.
that risk,
That's
even
the
if there's
whistleblower
no
risk, though. That's
blind
the
leading
thing.
the blind.
And the
It's a
other thing I just want
whistleblower
to point out is, Chris, you do know that Black Hills Information Security pays at least half of your internet bill. You can get it upgraded, man.
Is it crap again? We went through this in the pre-show, man.
I'm just
He
sitting here
actually,
wondering-
it's
I'm just
John.
sitting
It's
here
for
wondering,
privacy. He's doing
Why
it
does it
intentionally.
take Chris so long to run scans from home? I don't know.
I'm telling you, it's for privacy. He's doing the whole Jack Reciter thing where he doesn't want people to really see his face.
Yes.
It's like
I
it's
feel so bad
obfuscation.
about it.
It's much better now than it was in the pre-show, but I got to get this figured out. I don't know why they're dragging me down right now.
So we
It's getting
talked
better. It must hear us talking about it.
we
So,
talked
yeah,
about
no, I think that's a valid. Coming back to the point at hand, right? I think that you can always be sued, right? And as much as we joke about senators and police officers, yeah, that's true. That's kind of the way the world actually works. Like I said, years ago, whenever we found a vulnerability in number of vulnerabilities with the FBI, it was great. We had a relationship with them to get things addressed and fixed. But I do remember sitting and talking to Tim Tomes, who was working with us at the time. And he was like, it's a really good thing that you have good friends in the FBI, because this could have gone horribly, horribly bad. And he was right. It just kind of sucks. So that's another thing that happens is if you know someone or you can reach out to someone in the industry that can help you facilitate those conversations. There's a number of people that will be happy to make those conversations happen to get these things addressed as quickly as possible.
And you could get lucky. The ACLU could pick up your case, or the other thing,
maybe.
or EFF. Yeah, we could also talk about setting up the hackers union. It's like the police union where no matter what you did, they can get you off the hook. It doesn't matter. You straight up just punch an old guy in the face, they'll get you off the hook. Don't worry. You had to make a split-second decision. It's fine.
We're starting off with a hackers unit. They've got decades of funds building to be able to have the deep pockets to provide that kind of protection. We got to start
this
from
is
nothing.
A great idea.
One or two grants in there.
Black Hills Information Security. Everyone start paying your union dues.
You take no. It's easy. You take 20% of every Bitcoin you steal, and you put that for legal.
There you go. Yeah.
Perfect. John,
So,
I think you should
I have
make
an
the announcement of this
existential
union right on April 1st.
Go ahead, Bronwyn.
It'll be
What you got?
perfect.
I have an existential question. What actually is the difference between breach data and the data that is scraped and sold by data brokers?
Oh God.
Like I said,
I mean, there is no difference. There's no difference.
Yeah.
There's no difference. The only difference is that the person who breached the breach data can go to jail. The person who scraped the scrape data can only be sued. That's the only difference.
There has to be a legal term, though. There has to be something what is the legal definition of breached, right? You had to perform a attack in order to obtain the data.
Sorry, John.
So working with lawyers and prosecution and groups like that. Okay. If you can access the data through a standard browser or standard means that a normal person would use, then that's something that can be scraped. And it's very, very difficult for the company to prove that you actually broke the law. You may have broken their EULA, but that's a civil thing. That is not something that they're going to bring in lawyers or they're going to bring in the government and law enforcement. Okay. However, if you have to use a variety of different tools and manipulate requests, if you're dropping to a command line, writing a Python script, and you're using tools that a normal human being would not use, then that would be a breach. So let me give you an example. It used to be with LinkedIn, you could go right to LinkedIn and you could scrape anything you wanted. LinkedIn didn't like that, right? So they basically shut down a lot of those APIs and what you could actually do with them. However, they opened up all that data so it was cached in Google. So you could still do a Google search and you could do a LinkedIn search using Google and still scrape that data. And then LinkedIn shut that down. So basically, there was a number of ways that a normal human being could use a browser to get to the exact same data. Now, if we look at other cases where you have to specially craft an ICMP packet with a weird string to get something to come back, that is a fundamentally different thing. That would be a breach. So there is a different, now John is green. There is a difference between scraping, and scraping is generally using means that normal users would use and then automating that, versus developing new code to bypass specific access controls to do so.
So fun fact, I don't work at a data broker, but I would confidently say that close to 90% of the data they're pulling is the latter, is the not
It's
just
great.
accessible in a web. Yeah. It's custom tools. It's heavy usage of terms of use violations, access to data that other people don't have. In some cases, just reaching out to companies and saying, are you monetizing your data? Do you want to? Because it's anonymized. Don't worry about it. Like, seriously, that's what data brokers do. They're like, hey, Comcast, you want to sell us your DNS records? We'll pay you like $200K a year for that. They're like, sure. I mean, we just have this data
I'll
laying
take
around.
free
Why
money.
not?
Who doesn't want to take free money?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then it's like, well, technically they're authorized, right, to do that. They're authorized to get, it's just, yeah. And we have very loose privacy laws that allow that data to be possessed and distributed and all that stuff without really any consequences by the companies or people.
Speaking of privacy laws, can we circle back real quick to the two attackers that...
Just wait, I think Chris had something. I think Chris had something he wanted to say earlier when there was a lot of chatter. I don't know, Chris, if you got a chance to say it or not, if you're good.
No, I'm good.
All right, Ralph, take us into our next story then.
Yeah, so we kind of like talked about that just for like a second, but the two hackers who were charged last year who broke into the DEA portal, right? And so this story, it's a little bit more than just they broke into the DEA, right? So here's what they did. They got into the DEA's, this federal law enforcement database, okay? And once they got in there, they got the data off there, right? So, you know, they got as much data as they could off there. And what they did is they started using it. There were two people were being charged. They're 19 and 25, so pretty young. And what they did is they took this information and then they started submitting fake emergency data requests to other websites like Facebook and other big sites to then dox other people that they wanted to attack, right?
Oh my God.
And then what they would do is, because they had this information, there was multiple major companies and that the prosecution has already laid out that they use this information to get these data requests, and then they would extort them or do whatever they wanted, right? It is insane, the level of information that these emergency data requests will offer to law enforcement, which does not require a judge. All you have to do is convince somebody that this is an emergency. And
yes. And we've talked about this many times on the show. We've talked about the Ring video, how you can get access to instant, like you can say there's a damage to life and limb and get access to someone's Ring video camera with basically no questions asked. You just go on a portal, submit your credentials to that you're law enforcement, and say that there's immediate danger and that you need access. So I think it's like putting on the tinfoil hat that we wear 90% of the time on this show. This is a great example of demonstrated reasoning, proof that we need stricter privacy and controls around these emergency access requests, because they are abused. This is proof that they're abused. They're not just abused by creepy cops that want to look at your nudes. They're abused by people that like actually are cyber criminals, right? Not just creepy, but like true like blackmail.
Discord as well.
The whole thing that bothers me about this is no one's going to talk about the underlying issue, right? Whenever you're looking at like law enforcement and people in power, they want people to do what they want them to do and not question. And if you do push back on authority, if you do push back, and I'm right again, you do push back on these things, you're kind of treated poorly, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's a much larger issue. It's kind of like I said, you know, with we were talking about Darknet Diaries and my mom, the episode that she was on. What I didn't talk about that much about was my mom was very concerned about the fact that you could just pretend to have a little bit of authority and no one would ever question you. So this is a much larger psychological issue, I think, than just this one DEA thing, because you could spoof emails, or at least my concern, you could spoof emails pretending to be law enforcement and probably get the exact same access to the exact same data. I mean, we've talked about it for pen testing. It's not something we would do, but damn, we've thought about it.
You guys weren't raised. You guys weren't raised to question authority all the time.
That same respect, quote unquote, for authority that allows them to do something like this, where it's I am the law, I am law enforcement. That's been used for centuries, for
Exactly.
eons. It's ingrained in our psyche at this point in time, so deep. How do you break it?
I think the other thing, and it's a political thing, like it's integrated into, like, I think it's like the thin end of the wedge. It's literally like the patent pending thin end of the wedge. It's like basically saying, okay, well, we start here at there's an emergency. You have to allow access. And then we just expand that. There's an emergency. It's just a permanent emergency. It's still an emergency. We still need access. Like that.
It's called a slippery slope.
Right. It's a slippery slope. And it's like the same thing with like, we can't have end-to-end encryption. Save the kids. Or like, we can't have, like we can't allow people to talk about certain things in school. The kids, or like anything you bring up, you're just like, the kid, like it's the same thing, but with emergencies. Well, you can't have security. What if there's an emergency? Well, what if a door was locked and the cops needed to get in? Like they have, like that's the same thing. I don't know. It's like,
can somebody make a GIF of Corey just saying the kids and raising his hand up? And he just
oh yeah, that couldn't be taken out of context. Someone's like, I'll just start using it during phishing. I'll just be like, hey, can you give me your password? Save the kids.
Yeah, you go.
And there it comes. There it is.
This does come down to like the traditional like phishing technique. Okay, if someone calls you, right, and says they're so and so, like it's a one-way phone call. Like you don't call me and say you are this person. Like I want to validate who you are, especially in the government sense, right? Like you can't just call up and say I'm a police officer. You know what? Let me call the department up and I'll call you guys back, right? Like,
but dude, there are tons of stories where people have pushed back against law enforcement, and it doesn't go well a lot of the time.
There's plenty of videos on. There's plenty.
It
of videos
ends very
on YouTube.
badly.
Yeah. What was it? There's the one video where the nurse, where the police were like, "We want you to draw blood on this person," and the nurse is like, "I can't. Legally, I cannot do that," and they literally arrested her. And she was the one who knew the law better than they did. And somebody brought up a great point. I thought it was very, very cool. Katie Villa said, I wonder if the influx of vids showcasing law enforcement officers abusing power is helping in the pushback. I don't know. I see those videos all the time. And the only thing that goes through my head is don't engage law enforcement, right? It scares the hell.
Yes,
I
agree.
I think it does. If you go to those Reddit, usually like, okay, I'm a sucker for those like public freak.
Bad cop.
Oh God, those are so bad.
But most of the time, you just go down into the comments, and usually there's a news article. This person got paid out X amount of dollars. This person got this. Yeah. But the thing is, the cops are almost never fired. They just
they're just reassigned.
Which
they're
is
reassigned.
the power.
Yeah,
that's the power of the police unions, though.
This goes back to like,
we need
trust no one, right? Believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. Like that was one of my key staples as a child, and I still trust no one.
I mean, I also think...
I've always thought like if this legitimate security thing doesn't work out, and so far it's working out pretty good. I'm pretty happy. But if it doesn't work out, and I decided to be a criminal, I think that would be my go-to. You would just pretend to be a person of power and authority. Like we're not allowed to dress up like law enforcement. The health inspector thing with my mom, there's so many ways where you can just imitate those power structures. And what was that movie, Catch Me If You Can, I think highlights the level of trust that we have in those authority structures. And I think Mike nailed it. It's just something that we've been dealing with for eons, but we aren't allowed to test it. It's literally going to be a forever day.
So I think one, to comment on Katie Villa's point, I don't know if anyone saw, but there was a video where a certain law enforcement person was being pulled over by another law enforcement person, and they just kept begging them to turn off their body cam. They were just like, please turn off your body cam. Please turn off your body cam. That shows you that it's working to some degree, right? Because if the person who knows the impact of the body cam is begging you to turn it off, that tells you that the body cams are doing something, or recording law enforcement. I think that's like, I don't know what the hacker equivalent of a body cam is, like screen recording. I don't know. Put your entire website on Twitch or your whole pen test on Twitch, then you can't possibly be sued for anything.
So does that kind of mean that, like, when we're looking at it, knowledge becomes kind of the equalizer of these power structures, right? So if you're looking at like the body cam footage, I fundamentally believe that 99.9% of all interactions with law enforcement are quote unquote positive, right? But I do think that number is going up because of the body cam, right? Because there's more information that's being made available, and kind of tying it back to like the vulnerabilities. And one of the concerns that I have, once again, is seeing these conversations where people are afraid to do a port scan. People are afraid to do Shodan lookups, right? I mean, we're back in that pendulum swing, and I thought that we had addressed that, right? Where, no, you can do security research, go out, and people are freaking out again. And it's like, you got to push out the knowledge that, no, there are specific laws, there are specific edicts from, the Department of Justice that can state these are the things that they're going to prosecute, these are the things that they're not. But it feels like we got to constantly be pushing that knowledge out to as many people as possible. Because once again, if somebody's running a vulnerable website and it's been something that's been on Shodan for 2-3 years and they get compromised, that's actually good for the system, because insurance companies can start looking at those things and saying, look, we're kind of tired of paying out for these types of issues or these types of breaches, versus something that's an incredibly new and novel approach to trying to exploit systems. So I guess my question ultimately boils down to body cams, Shodan, port scans, vulnerability research. Are these things kind of tied to each other in some kind of weird way or not?
I think so. Although I'm really curious, what is the don't talk to cops of cybersecurity?
I want a lawyer. I want a lawyer.
Call the EFF.
So I think of Marcus, right? Malware Tech Blog. And, I think it was 2 years or a year after he was arrested. And his story is terrifying, because he was arrested at the airport in Las Vegas, right? And he got pulled into a room. He was still drunk from DEF CON shenanigans. And they pulled him into a room and they started asking him all kinds of computer security type questions. And he thought, honestly, that they were fans. That the FBI agents that were there that pulled him into the room and just started asking him all kinds of questions about the previous things that he had done and how he worked with probably some really shady people. He thought that they were all just friends and they were all just sitting around kicking it and just having conversations about, the good old days of hacking and things like that. Yeah. He didn't know that he was actually being investigated for crimes. So I think the whole thing of don't talk to the cops without an attorney is something that I think is just good advice all the way around.
There's a YouTube video.
That's some of that lands on the law enforcement, though, doesn't it, John? Right? They have to identify themselves. They have to make it absolutely clear that you're in a situation. Or do they not take them into a side room? They're just talking to them in the terminal.
They just, hey, do you mind if we talk to you? Like, this is how it would have gone down. Do you mind if we talk to you? He's like, sure, cool. Do you mind if we go over to a room and talk? Okay, cool. Go into the room, sit down. And then you start having a conversation. Whereas if you're playing that correctly, the first thing you're going to say is, am I being detained? If I am being detained, what am I being detained for? Is this part of an existing investigation? Yeah. And for some reason, I just got an email from the FBI. They're no longer holding my clearances. What the hell?
There's a whole YouTube video on just that. It's from a law professor about why you should ask for a lawyer, and it's your constitutional right to have a lawyer.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's really, really good. There is zero reasons why you shouldn't be saying these things. I want a lawyer, right? Because there's nothing that like there's you
can't make the situation any better.
You cannot make the situation any better, no matter what. Even if you are innocent, 100% innocent, you can actually make the situation worse.
You can admit to a crime you didn't do, and they can charge you.
It is unbelievable. It is unbelievable.
That's me. That's me. Like I would get pulled into a room. When I was 14, I read a Slim Jim from a Walgreens. And
I've been using Q-tips in my ear canals for years.
Case law has established you have the right to an attorney, and that is the right you should absolutely use. And you have the right to remain silent, and you should use that one too.
I'm also going to throw out there, like, if you're doing security research, right, and you're finding vulnerabilities, because let's just take the FBI as an example. People think of the FBI as like this monolithic organization. That's not it. The FBI is literally hundreds of individual islands across the United States, and they all have different prerogatives. They all have different edicts. They all have different things that they're working on. So if you do end up in a situation where you're being interviewed, right, and you ask for an attorney, these are the cases the EFF loves. Like, if somebody is doing security research and it's good faith security research, and can it be proven that it's good faith security research, like, you're going to hear helicopters as soon as you make that phone call. They're going to be descending on your lawn in a matter of 15 minutes, because these are cases that they are absolutely going to be behind. But just
I think
keep your nose clean.
The other thing I think that is always a good step to take is to be, if you're concerned that this could happen to you, be very public very quickly. Like, I know you might not have 50,000 followers on Twitter, but there is someone, bring attention to the issue in the public as a CYA for later. Because if you don't, like, if no one realizes that the EFF needs to go get you out of Guantanamo, you're not going to come, like, you're going to, like, you need to, you know.
If you're in Guantanamo, it's too late for the EFF.
Yeah, it's too late. It's too late at that point. It's too late at that point. And once again, all of this is great advice, just so long as you don't end up hacking data of a senator or.
That's the other thing. And that's. Yes.
Directly to
who you make mad. You always have to consider, who am I making mad? Who loses if I win? Like, that is like legitimately a security practice too. It's like, do I want to make the entire internet mad at me? Because no matter whether something's legal or not, you can still be DDoSed off the map. Like, that is still an option.
I had this idea about creating an APT group that only attacks corporations that make people mad. So like pretty much going after anyone that John Oliver does a report for.
That's just called hacktivism. That's literally just called hacktivism.
But profit.
But he's talking about doing it legitimately, because most hacktivist groups are a bunch of a-holes who are actually stealing a whole bunch, like, legitimately. You know, like, these are bad companies. Everyone hates
don't
these.
Insult the hackers.
So okay,
timeshare right now.
Hold on. Can the EFF come up with like hacktivist group where like we only go after people that are like internationally sanctioned criminals? We're just like, oh yeah, we just target criminals with hacking.
These groups. Russia just became open season. What was the guy's name?
You can get a permit. It's like actual hunting. It's like, you got a fishing permit.
Wild West Hacking Fest. I forgot his name. Jeremiah, I think, was his name. And he was in Ukraine. Sorry. He was in Ukraine, and he came and he presented at Wild West Hacking Fest on the things he was doing. But it was very clear. It was just like open season, just open season
in Ukraine.
On all of Russia.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such a funny concept. It's like, we need to call the herd of hackers. So like, you can just get a permit to fish. Like, you're just like, I got a permit to fish. Oh, well, did you have a permit for Cobalt Strike? Because you need it. It's not Cobalt. It's not Cobalt Strike season. That doesn't start until March 15th.
You got to get a Cobalt Strike.
What organizations would be on this list? Like customer support, like Verizon customer support.
ISP.
No one's going to be like, oh, they hacked Verizon customer support. That's just hilarious.
I mean, I was thinking more like, Putin's friends or like,
there you go.
Like the call scammers.
He has friends?
Call scammer? Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
They keep falling out of windows.
Scammers.
Scammers. I think that is like quasi open season, because I know there are people that hack back and I don't think they've gotten in trouble just yet.
Your car's extended warranty organization.
Spam callers?
Yeah. That's the top of the
man.
Yeah.
There's ones that could be
thinking.
Like,
go ahead.
Monsanto, right? Like, there's ones that could, or John Deere. Like, I don't know. Now I'm getting into a little bit.
John, I actually just got a call.
John, never mind. I'm gonna stop talking.
I got a call. Our lawyer says we have to stop talking now.
Oh,
I
God.
love how
this
the
is great for
conversation has
business, Joel.
shifted
Thank
from
you.
infosec news to how we should attack others legally.
Yeah.
And a framework
No,
on
no,
how
no.
to do that. A
How we can
union
attack
on how to protect
others
us.
without getting in trouble. There's a
Yeah.
difference.
You
there.
must be new to the
different.
show, Chris.
Key
You must be
word.
new to the show.
Legality is one
everything-
thing. Avoiding
Everything in Black Hills
trauma.
Information Security talking about news that we just talked about is satire.
That's right.
So if you don't get that, and that doesn't make any sense, our next episode is going to be how we can eat the poor.
So wait. Okay, John,
This is
that
entertainment
appeals.
purposes only.
How do I subscribe? Is there training for that? I'm just kidding.
Is there training for how to eat poor people?
So okay.
Um,
Well, I'd like it to be a regressive tax, but anyway. So what's
very
this
correct.
SVB thing? You mentioned that at the beginning, John. Let's wrap it up.
Oh
into a
yeah,
bow.
that was hackers were using the Silicon Valley Bank implosion.
Yeah.
As
need
a-
to send
as
the-
a
phishing
pretext.
ruse. Yeah, we
Yeah.
talked about doing this as a
Hackers would
ruse.
Yeah,
use that
but
as
we
a
feel-
ruse?
This is one of the things I hate is there's stuff that would work so good, but we're like, it feels icky, but it would work.
Yeah.
So
Well, if you had a bank account there, for sure.
Yeah,
The
this
graph
the
is
same
pretty
thing-
funny. Scroll
This
down to
is
the
the same
graph.
thing you see after natural disasters or anything horrible that happens, right?
oh my
So
god.
this is the graph. This is pretty funny.
Oh, jeez.
This is a graph of domain registrations containing SVB. Yeah, nothing.
Wow.
Oh, everything. Everyone needs an SVB domain now.
Oh my god. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Oh wow, there's a SVB claim, SVBcollapse.com, SVB deposit.
Johannes did a great job with that one. So,
That's so bad.
all right. Well, let's go ahead and let's wrap it up. Thank you everybody for coming. I do appreciate it. Once again, it's all satire. It's all in good fun. But hey, hopefully it was thought provoking and you got a laugh out of it. So, all right, Ryan, take us out.